Welcome everyone to this explainer session. I am absolutely thrilled you're here. Today we are going to conquer the C02 module together. Now I know diving into C programming can sometimes feel, well, like you're learning an entirely new language from scratch. But don't worry, I'm here as your guide to break every single step down for you. In this workshop, we are hyper-focused on mastering strings and memory. By the time we wrap up, you're going to see exactly how the computer handles text and memory management right under the hood. It's a fantastic journey, so get your notes ready and let's jump right in.
All right, so before we can start manipulating strings, we really need to understand what a string actually is in C. It's not some magical data type, you know? It's literally just an array of characters. But how does the computer actually know where that array stops? That is exactly where the null terminator comes in. It's this hidden character with an ASCII value of 0, and it's represented as a \0. Every single string in C absolutely must end with this byte. If you forget it, your program will just keep reading memory blindly until it crashes. This one single rule sets the foundation for the entire module, so keep it in mind.
So here is our syllabus for today's explainer. First, mastering string copying. Second, validating character types. Third, modifying string cases. And finally, hexadecimal and memory printing.
Let's start with Section 1, Mastering String Copying, Moving Data Safely.
Our first block of exercises deals with moving data from one place in memory to another. Let's see how this builds your understanding of memory safety. First up, we have ft_stropy. This one is straightforward. It loops through the source string, copying character by character, until it hits that null byte we just talked about, and then it stops. Simple, right? But ft_strona string introduces a crucial safety net, which is a maximum size, or n bytes. So you copy up to n characters, but pay close attention here, because this is a highly specific detail your automated graders are going to check for. If your source string is shorter than n, you absolutely must switch gears and pad the remainder of your destination buffer with null bytes until you've written exactly n bytes.
So the thing is, while string and copy is great, it actually doesn't always guarantee a null-terminated string if the source happens to be too long. And that brings us to ft_stringlobp. This function is designed to be the safest option out there. First, you compute the total length of the source. Then you copy characters up to the given size -1. Finally, and this step is completely mandatory, you explicitly add a null terminator at the very end. Regardless of whether the destination buffer was large enough or not, stringlobp will always return the total length of the string it tried to create. It is just a brilliant piece of design for safe memory writing.
Moving on to Section 2, Validating Character Types, the ASCII checkers.
For these validation exercises, you're going to be writing Boolean-style functions. Think of them like little security guards for your text data. They return a 1 if a condition is true and a 0 if it's false. You've got 5 exercises in this block. You're checking for alphabetical characters, numbers, lowercase, uppercase, and printable characters. Now, I'm going to give you a huge tip here to save you a ton of time. All 5 of these functions share the exact same logic and loop structure. You just set up a while loop to iterate over the string character by character. Inside the loop, you check a condition. If the character fails that condition, you immediately abort and return 0. If the loop finishes entirely without triggering a failure, you just return 1 at the end. Literally the only thing you change between these 5 exercises is the condition inside your if statement.
And this brings us to a really cool trick that perfectly illustrates the power of the ASCII table. You definitely don't need massive blocks of code checking every single letter of the alphabet. To the computer, characters are just numerical values. So, to check if something is numeric, you simply write if string I, G, E are equal to 0 and string I less than or equal to 9. Notice we put quotes around those numbers because we're checking their character values, not the actual integer 0. For alphabetic characters, you just combine ranges, checking A to Z or A to Z. And for printable characters, well, it's just decimal values 32, which is the space character, all the way up to 126, which is the tilde.
Now, I really need you to pay close attention to this edge case because almost every student trips up on this initially. The requirements explicitly state that your validation functions must return 1 if the string is empty. You might be wondering why. Well, think about our loop logic for a second. If the string is empty, the very first character is the null terminator. So the loop condition fails instantly, meaning the loop literally never runs. Because it never encounters an invalid character to trigger a return 0, the code just naturally falls down to the final line, which is return 1. It inherently fulfills the criteria by doing absolutely nothing. Let the loop do the heavy lifting for you.
All right, Section 3, Modifying String Cases, the changers.
Let's keep this momentum going. These next functions are really fun. They don't just check text, they actually transform it. They're going to iterate through the string, modify the characters right there in place, and return the pointer. And here's where you get to use some really beautiful ASCII math. When you look at an ASCII table, the lowercase letters and the uppercase letters are offset by exactly 32. So for FT strupt case, when your loop detects a lowercase letter, you simply subtract 32 from its value. Instantly, it becomes uppercase. And conversely, for FT strollo case, when you detect an uppercase letter, you just add 32 to convert it to lowercase. The only thing you need to watch out for is making sure your if statements only target the letters. Leave the numbers and spaces completely untouched.
Now, exercise 9 is FT street capitalize, and I won't lie to you, it is definitely the trickiest of the changers. This function requires you to capitalize the first letter of every single word and then make sure the rest of the word is strictly lowercase. To pull this off, you can't just look at the current character in isolation. You actually need to remember what happened in the previous iterations. We solve this by using a programming concept called state tracking. Let's break down the logic of state tracking step by step so it makes sense. First, you're going to declare an integer variable outside your loop to act as a flag. Let's call it new word and set it to 1 initially. As you iterate through the string, if your current character is alphanumeric and that flag is 1, you force the character to uppercase and then immediately flip the flag to 0. If the character is alphanumeric but the flag is already 0, you force it to lowercase. Finally, step 3. If the character is non-alphanumeric, say a space, a hyphen, or some punctuation, you just reset your flag back to 1. Why? Because you know for a fact the next letter you see has to be the start of a new word. It's a really elegant little puzzle to solve.
Finally, Section 4, Hexadecimal and Memory Printing, the final bosses.
We have officially reached the final stage of our workshop. Exercises 11 and 12 are going to deal directly with memory visualization and hexadecimal conversion. It's definitely a big step up, but I know you're ready for it. First up is FT put straight non-printable. This function prints a string, but if it encounters an unprintable character, like a line feed, it prints a backslash followed by its 2-digit hexadecimal value. The logic here is pretty straightforward. If it's printable, use your write function normally. If not, print a backslash. Then, to get the hex digits, you divide the character's ASCII value by 16 for the first digit and use the modulo operator by 16 for the second digit. Now here is an absolutely essential tip. Be extremely careful with signed characters. If you try to cast negative values to hex, it creates a massive bug. Make sure you cast your char to an unsigned char before doing your math.
And that brings us to exercise 12, FT frint memory. This is the big one. It requires you to format memory exactly the way professional software debuggers do. You receive a pointer to a memory address along with a size. Your job is to display that specific memory zone on the screen, split strictly into 16-byte rows.
Let's look at the specific layout they're demanding here. Each line of your output must have 3 distinct columns. Column 1 is the exact memory address of the first character, formatted as 16 hex digits followed by a colon. Column 2 is the hexadecimal content of those 16 bytes, but grouped into 2-byte pairs separated by spaces. And then, column 3 is the contents rendered as printable characters, replacing anything unprintable with a dot. You'll have to build loops within your main loop to handle these columns line by line.
Now, I want to equip you with some highly specific technical hints so you can tackle this final boss head-on. To print that memory address, you must cast the void pointer to an unsigned long to properly extract all of those hex digits. When converting to hex, save yourself the headache of a bunch of if statements and just map your remainder values directly to a base character array, so 0 through 9 and A through F. Finally, the absolute trickiest edge case. If your memory size cuts off right in the middle of a line, you must mathematically calculate the exact number of spaces needed to pad that second column so your third column still aligns perfectly on the screen. A full hex block takes 32 characters plus 8 spacing intervals. Use that math to fill the gaps.
And there you have it, everyone. We've walked step by step through strings, validations, ASCII transformations, and even visualizing raw memory. If you can confidently write these algorithms from scratch, you aren't just learning C, you are building the exact foundation for everything else you are ever going to do in computer science. So go ahead and open up those code editors, trust in the step-by-step logic we covered today, and ask yourself, are you ready to manage memory entirely on your own? I absolutely think you are. Happy coding, and I will see you in the next explainer.